Hello and welcome to the Klassiki podcast. I'm your host, Sam Goff. Klassiki is your one-stop shop for the wide world of cinema from Eastern Europe. Subscribers gain access to our library of classic and contemporary films, as well as filmmaker interviews, video introductions, program notes, essays, watch lists, and more. You can sign up for a 7-day free trial today at klassiki.online. Last month saw the 68th edition of the London Film Festival hit the capital's cinemas, and as always, Eastern Europe was well represented. Amid the bustle of the festival press circuit, I managed to get hold of two of our favourite filmmakers who happened to feature in the programme this year to ask them about their new films. Just to note that these interviews were recorded on location, so the sound quality is a little variable. And as always, if you want to find out more, you can check out the links in the show description. First up is Georgia's Kulumbegashvili, whose new film April has been turning heads since it won the special jury prize at this year's Venice Film Festival, and it arrives in London on the back of screenings in Toronto, New York and San Sebastian. The film is a rigorous but extremely moving portrait of an obstetrician in rural Georgia who moonlights as an abortionist, providing unsanctioned treatment for pregnant women and girls. I asked Dea about the painstaking research process behind the film, which is set in the director's own hometown, and the challenges involved in portraying the breadth of female experience on screen. And listeners should be aware that Dea describes some disturbing events in this interview. Dea, thank you so much. So this film, I was very interested in what I've heard you speaking about the amount of time that went into research preparation and then developing the script and the characters. And from what I understand, it's that research was taking place in the town that you're from, the town you grew up. So I wondered if you could just tell us about that process, your process of kind of researching. It sounds close to a kind of documentary or ethnographic approach.
Yeah, thank you. And yes, I did a lot, but I usually do a lot of research because for me, especially like this film is so rooted in this hospital, and the profession of the doctor and the details are extremely important because I did not want the characters to just go in there and like enact. Okay, this is what doctor means. But I really wanted them to embody and to really understand not only the dynamic between doctors or what their day-to-day life consists of, but also like state of mind, like mentality in a way, because like in this hospital specifically, there are very specific kinds of doctors. They're idealists in a way because their salaries are like, I mean, I don't know, it's like $100 if you like per month,
Yeah.
which is even for Georgia extremely low. And they work almost every day. Like maybe they go home once a week, basically 1 day a week. So it's like incredible. Like it's very understaffed also this hospital. But these people are so dedicated to what they do. And then even with all this dedication, when it comes to the subject of abortion, it starts to become a bit messy because then they start to talk to you about like, oh, like it's why should I step in and take somebody else's sins upon myself? And you're like, how can you be like such dedicated doctor and say this at the same time? But then of course, like there are doctors who do abortions. Like there is this one doctor. And it was very important for me to really understand not only by the way doctors but also patients, because when you're there you really like immerse into the microcosm. Like it's not just one film. I guess like you can make films there for years just in this one clinic. And it's not that much of a documentary in that regard, but I guess like all this like research and planning allows me to maybe get to the another level in terms of like being able to pre-plan, and also because like when you deal with a real birth, which is in my film, and things which are like not created by me, obviously they would happen without me being there as well, and then the rest of the film is fiction. Like how do you approach this also visually? So all of this really required a lot of me being there, And also, like, how do you talk to women about like giving birth on camera? You just don't go and hire somebody to do it, right? So it was all just nuances, which really, and I'm very grateful that I was able to do it and to spend this time in this hospital, because I think it really changed me in a way forever.
You mentioned there the connection between that experience, that research, and then finding the visual expression. The film as a whole, I think, has got a lot to say about kind of constructing and consuming these images of these kind of female experiences and these kind of extreme female experiences, birth, abortion. And I'm thinking also in your previous film, Beginning, there's sexual violence. So is that something that you seek out, the complex task of trying to find ways to kind of give visual form to those kind of experiences?
I think that cinema, perhaps, like, I used to think that I would be a novelist when I was growing up, because I was growing up in this town during Civil War, and I have not seen films until I was like 17, because we never had electricity. I have seen maybe like 5 films in total. And by the way, one of those was in cinema. And I remember my shock to have seen something like on such huge screen. And now when I go back to the cinema, it's not big at all. And the screen is not big at all. But like for me, for a child who we didn't even watch TV. You see, we just never had electricity. And it's weird that you go and talk about these kind of things in the Western world, and people don't really conceptually can't really understand like what this means. So for me, like image is so like has so much power, and it's so striking. Like I don't need like 1,000 images in one film to feel something, because I'm very sensitive to very few images, even because I didn't grow up with many of them like imposed over me. And then I guess like this place somehow also like growing up there, I don't think I have another choice also in a way, because like life is extreme and hard. And I think the harder it is, the more of the complexities of the human nature are on surface, and really extreme things happen. So as a director, you need to deal with like, what do you do then? Like, do you like retreat into your imagination and just totally refuse to talk about like what's really happening around you? Because that's also an option, by the way, and I would understand that choice as well. But for me, it's almost like I can't not talk about what I live with also there. Because, for example, this very tragic event, I tried to talk about it several times, but there was a woman who was murdered when I was there. And it was like horrible, because I was in the hospital when she was brought in, and everybody thought that she just died because of the gas leak. And I was so shattered because I used to know her. And unfortunately, I knew her husband who did this as well. We kind of all grew up together. And then like my sister who still lives in this town, like I went to her to have coffee because I understood that I could not work anymore that day. And when I told my sister that, that she's brought into the hospital, we don't know if she's going to survive, because I thought it was an accident. At that point, everybody thought that. And my sister said that you don't understand, she was murdered by her husband. I was like, how can you just assume that? And then I understood that she didn't assume. She just lives there. And for her, it's kind of like the most obvious thoughts. So this is like what makes me then question, like, because I'm not there that much anymore, things that are extreme for me are the most obvious thoughts for people who live there, because this happens around them just too much. And then as a director, like, what do you do with this? Like, this was not part of the script before, and then it became later on, after a lot of thinking. And by the way, my cinematographer was there, and he was like totally unable to deal with it, and was telling me to just stop thinking about it. But I just could not stop thinking about this thing.
That's understandable, and thank you for sharing that. And I guess there's this question, isn't there, of these events, say birth and abortion, are actually quite unremarkable, especially birth. I mean, we're all born, and yet they remain somehow so hard for people to consume. Hard. I don't know if they're hard to shoot per se, but there's a difficulty surrounding them when it comes to filmmakers and film audiences. So, were you aware of that when you were dealing with those sequences?
It's not considered to be pretty, I guess.
No, with good reason, I think.
And then I guess like everybody was like kind of shocked, and I remember everyone was asking me, where is the camera going to be? Because, and I understood that nobody wanted to see the most important thing which ever happened in our life. It's like, I was like, really, you don't want to see, really, like, because you're scared, because you don't think it's aesthetically pleasing. Also, I don't think cinema has that task to please somebody ever. And then for me, it's just like, it is female cinema. I don't even know if it's feminist or not. But for me, it's rooted in who I am. And it's a female experience of the world. And for me, it's inevitable. At some point, I needed to film it as well. And I gave birth also right after. When I finished shooting, I gave birth myself. So it was all like I don't know where life imitates art, or what happens usually. But now I'm here with my 8-month-old child. So I'm very grateful actually that I filmed it. And I think cinema needs these moments also to be captured.
I also spoke with Bulgarian director Petar Valchanov. Petar was in town with his latest film Triumph, which, as ever, he directed with his partner, Kristina Grozova. The film forms the final part of a loose trilogy from the duo, following on from earlier films The Lesson and Glory, all of which draw on sensationalist news stories from their native Bulgaria. And Triumph is the strangest tale yet. It's based on a bizarre true story from the early post-communist 90s, when the nation's military, under the influence of a psychic, conducted a secret mission to excavate alien artifacts from a village outside Sofia. I asked Petar, who was joined by the film's star Margita Gosheva, who plays the psychic in question, about the appeal of these stranger-than-fiction true stories and the portrait of Bulgaria that emerges in his films. So, this film is the third in this trilogy, going back to The Lesson and then Glory, about these, as you put it, sensationalist real-life news stories in Bulgaria and kind of painting this portrait of post-communist Bulgaria. Can you tell us a little about the real-life story behind Triumph? Because it's possibly the craziest yet. And why? What was it in this particular real-life story that you wanted to get into and explore?
In between the real story has happened after the fall of communism between 1919 and 1992. And in this period, Kristina, she was child and a kid, and with her family they traveled to a house in countryside near to Sofia. And one day they discover in the middle of one field, they discover this military camp with soldiers. They stop them, ask for passports, papers, and it was very strange and shock situation for them. They was little, worried, and what's happened here. It's what they are doing. It's part of we are near to the border, or what exactly it's happened, or some military base, or what exactly is. And 3 weeks later, a newspaper article came by the journalist Georgi Statkov, who was the first journalist who discovered this case to the Bulgarian society. And it was 1 year and a half that these guys, digging these tunnels. And he discovered this, and maybe some months after it, the Ministry of Army decided to close. Yes,
they never found the alien artifact then.
We don't know. We don't know what exactly happened there. There is a lot of stories, legends. We met a lot of people, some local people, some military guys, and all of them have some kind of different versions what exactly happened, but it's a real fact that high rank officers and psychics were involved in this operation, and the tunnel were 180 meters, because on the end of the operation, because to close the tunnel, they invite a group of journalists to enter there to see the results of these 2 years digging. And some of the legend was that when you pick up some stone, or no, some ground, mud, some mud, and when you go up there, it's became hard. But after, when you go back down, it became again, muddy. And so yes, we don't know. For us, how to say, um, we try to look with a smile on this operation, and it was very intensive period in this moment after the fall of communism in Bulgaria, when a lot of psychics, a lot of kind of this, people start to work.
It was trendy at that time.
Yeah, I think people
Psychic.
people in the West maybe don't understand. Everywhere in post-communist Eastern Europe, right? Psychics, telepathy was very. Why do you think that was such a craze in that period?
It was it was, for me, it was some kind of the people were locked during the communism, were very pressed, and it was like they was very hungry hungry about the new, about the different, about these things, and somehow with blind eyes and stomach, they try to taste, and they try to reach some miracles, to try to reach them, following with the blind faith.
They needed help from outer space because the help wasn't there for them. I mean, a desire to something, to do something for them. Yeah.
How do you strike the right tone when you're telling the story? Because obviously it's very funny. Just on the face of it, it's very funny. But there's also a lot of, I think, kind of understandable anger in these films of yours. You're painting a kind of unflattering portrait of, as you've called it, this fake democracy that Bulgarians live with. So how do you strike the right tone between embracing what's really funny about this story and also making sure that the anger or the kind of critique comes across?
Well, the absurdity contains truth as well, but in a particular way, and it was really interesting to participate in this weird film. I had to go to see some tarot readers, astrologists. I was actually, I saw a lot of как се казваше тази Juna's performances,
It's a Russian, yes,
psychic.
psychic. Psychic.
Yeah, she was involved in Russian affairs, like really
Political affairs, yeah.
yeah, deeply involved. They actually, she was the leader of some operations in Russia, and Juna was the idol for Pirina Nyagulova.
Yes, for your
Idol,
character.
my
Yes.
character, yes.
I remember that in this period also was another Russian psychic who was very popular in Bulgaria. Kashpirovsky was his name, and he has time in the main news in the national TV before the beginning of the news, and
To hypnotize
yes,
the
talk
audience.
people, to the audience, to the we were 9 million in this period. Now we are 6. And in this period, he tried, to talk with the people. And for example, my father watched this show because my father has problem with his hair, and he watching and listening, and repeating the words of Kashpirovsky, just to help his hair. But the result was opposite. But somehow he believed in this and he was happy with this. So it's this story also can explain. I mean, I think that a big part of our society in our days, they continue to dig in the hole and to living with this faith, with this blind faith in the miracle, and in this that somebody will come, some alien or our Russian brothers, or from SSR, they will come and they will solve our problems, and our life will become, a dream.
Invades.
These films are obviously about Bulgaria. But do you think that there's a broader relevance to this? I mean, is there a broader political or social relevance that you see with other countries, with other kind of contexts, political contexts?
I think that maybe, especially after the COVID period, it's this craziness in the society became, it's raised not only in the Eastern Europe, in Bulgaria, it's raised in the entire world, and I'm don't know, and I'm worried in which direction this will be. How to say? Going? Yes. Yes.
We hope that the audience throughout the world will see something that connects with different cultures, because I don't think that most of the cultures don't have this particular absurdity, craziness in their folklore, for example.
Every country has a similar kind of story, you think?
Well, yes, similar, yes.
Fresh example is, I think, 1 year ago in Mexico, some scientists bring to the parliament some body of alien.
Yes.
Yeah.
I missed that story. What happened there?
It was
In Mexico,
1 year ago, I think. I'm not exactly sure for the period, but it was soon when one scientist, pseudo-scientist or scientist, I'm not sure also about this, but they bring the body of the alien in the building of the parliament, and they show.
it was a real news, like big news.
It was a big news, but after nothing.
No,
It
actually,
was for 1 month, was very popular, and after we don't know what's happened. They extract something from the body of the alien. They make some blood test, or some kind of this to show, to prove. Yes, to prove that it's something from the space, not from.
but the body was smaller than expected. Like,
Yes. And
Okay.
so this collaboration between the government and the science, psychic, this kind of collaboration, maybe are, how to say, became more.
I think America has traditions in this direction. So
That's true. Could you just briefly tell us a little bit? So these three films are all about this kind of post-communist fake democracy. I mentioned that term that I've seen you use before. What is that exactly? I mean, could you maybe explain the fakeness of this democracy and why you think it's important for filmmakers, film artists to kind of explore it?
fakeness.
Yes, because somehow we are living in this, and this reflect to us, and yes, and we are inspired from it. So it's some kind of natural way that we want to tell to speak about this. It's strange for us that the story of the lessons happen. Uh, Maybe this is the latest story in this period that provoke us. 10 years before was the story about glory, and triumph is the beginning of this process. And yes, and till now, until today, we still have this question: why? I mean, this happened, and uh, why it's fake? This democracy period? Why it's, I don't know. Maybe
Because when you grow up and you were always told some sentences that are ultimate truth, and they are repeated to you like 1,000 times, countless times, and what lies beneath them is completely different story. It's like a cupboard box. From outside is one thing, from inside is totally different thing.